Welcome to our web exclusive. I'm Mike Montecalvo, along with Eyewitness News analyst Lieutenant General General Centracchio. Really, the main issue we're going to focus on today is the terror threats overseas. Al-Qaeda making threats along the Pakistan border with Afghanistan, General, but we're also hearing about the threats in Yemen. Your thoughts when you first heard about this?
Yeah, I think this is, in my mind, it's a consolidated effort that we're starting to see more and more over the last several months anyway. Al-Qaeda is an organization that has within it many other organizations that affiliate themselves with Al-Qaeda. So what you're seeing now is a different part of the Mideast becoming more affiliated and more collaboration with other agencies as they do their thing and make more threats. But we can't specifically say this particular organization is only responsible for Yemen, as an example, or perhaps other parts of the border of Pakistan and Afghanistan. It's one whole organization that has within it several splinter groups.
Well, CBS News was the first to report that the communication was intercepted between Pakistan and Afghanistan. That's supposed to be a trouble-free zone after all of these years. Why is Al-Qaeda getting stronger at that point?
I think what they're doing is leveraging an apparent weakness within that region. If there's no direct physical opposition to it, they're there. And I think you'll start to see that, certainly, we're starting to see that now with Iraq. You see that void being filled. More and more violence is taking place in Iraq because there's nothing there to stop them. And wherever there's a region that doesn't have a United Nations presence or U.S. presence, they will fill that void.
Now, you're talking about nothing there. Is this because the troops are pulling out at this point?
Exactly. Nothing's there between, and the United States role now is coming out of the combat role, so they're pulling in. And when you have the void with no combat troops presence, they will fill that void with a presence from Al-Qaeda.
Now, we're hearing as of right now there are 19 embassies and consulates that are closed down. They think they might reopen them after the Muslim Holy Week is finished. But what we're seeing in Yemen, a little bit different than we're talking about at the Pakistani border, because they're trying to target oil infrastructure and the different cities around there. Why is that a little bit different?
Because it's there. Those resources are there. Unlike in different parts of Pakistan on the border, there are no resources. There are no big oil refineries or any assets and resources that would cripple the Mideast, or at least the European aspects of oil coming out of that area. We, the United States, don't really heavily depend on that area. But obviously what happens in Europe affects the United States. So they're targeting those resources, which would have an impact on Europe and obviously in Western interests.
Well, the gas facilities, it's kind of new at what they're looking at, because we haven't really heard about it until the last year.
You're right, but once again, it's available, it's a target, it's a high visibility target, it's a high impact target within that area that has definite ramifications, not only within that region, but certainly in the European theater.
Now, do you think these embassies and consulates will ever reopen? There are 19 closed right now.
You're right, and I have concern about that. You know, we've set a precedent now. We have reacted to a threat, a credible threat at that. But now that we've reacted to it, that anybody with a common sense attitude would say, well, it worked this time, we can do it again. And how long will it take us from coming back up to shutting back down, going back on? They could issue that threat any day of the week, not necessarily during Ramadan, which is the apparent time that we're concerned about right now, but they could do it in 2 weeks from now with credible threats. So what do we do with that? Close down again. It's a concern, a big concern.
What are the ramifications if those embassies and consulates never reopen?
We would have to do what we do with other countries that we don't have embassies in. We have a third party that would look at at least hopefully give us some kind of relationship with other countries without actually having an embassy there. I'm not suggesting that that could happen, but that's a possibility.
What's the difference between Benghazi and what we're talking about here?
Benghazi, I think you and I talked earlier, it had much to do with the actual physical structure and the actual emplacement within Benghazi. It certainly didn't have the fortifications and physical protection that an established embassy does, such as we're talking about now with those 19 embassies.
We've seen 5 drone strikes in less than 2 weeks in Yemen. They've worked out so far, but we're hearing from Secretary of State John Kerry that might come to an end. Good or bad idea? I
think that, you know, it's mixed messages once again. We have something that's working. We've taken out significant leadership, and yet we're looking at ending it. Sometimes I get mixed messages, and I don't know what to think, other than sometimes I don't know that there's a standard secure foreign policy as it relates to drones.
All right, General Centracchio, as always, thank you for your thoughts, and thanks for watching.